Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy, the RLC leader. And if you don't know what that means, it's the Red Lantern Corps. And we about to read a comic book. We about to do a watch along. Comicstorian about to do a read along, a full 50-minute video of my boys, the Red Lantern Corps. I'm the RLC leader, JJ Stewart. My brother is John Stewart. Let's get this comic book story thing going.
Who are the Red Lanterns? This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alliterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective company. Today we're going to be doing another full story, where we grab as many of the related videos on the channel and turn it into a full thing for you to watch. Way back at the New 52 in 2011, there was a Red Lantern series. And Red Lanterns are related to the lore of Green Lanterns. So we decided to grab all of the origins related directly to the Red Lanterns, and then the original Red Lantern storyline, and grab the Supergirl related video and put them all together. So today you're going to get 4 origins. You're going to get how Guy Gardner became a Red Lantern. Then you're going to get the prelude to the Civil War. And then we're going to jump over and tell you how Supergirl became a Red Lantern. And then we're going to tell the Civil War of the Red Lanterns. I hope you guys enjoy.
Origin of Atrocitus, my boy.
Ever wonder about the leader of the Red Lanterns? How he was deemed to have so much rage that he could be deemed the embodiment of sheer rage? Things begin with 𝓸𝓻 sending the first intergalactic police force into a rogue rampage. No one escapes the Manhunters, and they decided to go ahead and destroy the entire sector of 666. Well, on the planet Ryut, Atros was there, and he was nothing more than a devoted father and husband. He was actually a psychologist by trade, and he was among the rebellion that stood up against the Manhunters as they came to his planet. He tried to save the children. He tried to save the planet. He tried to save anyone. But the Manhunters killed and disintegrated the inhabitants of his entire planet. Atros still remembers his daughter's doll turning to dust in his own hands. Now, depending on the version of the story you hear, this is where he becomes the Red Lantern. But that's the abridged version for the New 52. There is so much more to it than just that. You see, Atros didn't actually become a Red Lantern there. It just makes it easier to tell his story that way. What actually happened is Atros was one of the 5 survivors of the Sector 666 massacre, and the group formed up as a cabal known as the 5 Inversions, and they used the power of blood magic to try and get their revenge on the Guardians. Well, as a part of their blood magic, they were able to see into the future, and they were able to see the prophecy of the Blackest Night. This was the prophecy that stated that all life in the universe would eventually end. Using this knowledge of future events, they attacked the Guardians, but failed. As punishment, they were imprisoned on the planet Yasmalt for an unknown amount of time. And sometime later, after the Guardians had made the Green Lanterns, one of the greatest Green Lanterns, Abin Sur, ended up on Yasmalt with the prisoners, where they informed him of the Blackest Night prophecy. He became obsessed with this knowledge and decided to research it himself by taking Atros, who was now going by the name Atrocitus, with him to the supposed start of the Blackest Night prophecy, Earth. It was there that Atrocitus got free and mortally wounded Abin Sur, causing him to crash and pass his ring on to 𝓸𝓸𝓵𝓵𝓸𝓀. Atrocitus then went on a rampage throughout all of Earth looking for William Hand, the future owner of the Black Ring. And he was going to succeed from a device that he created from dismantled guns, but the newest Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and his trainer Sinestro came and stopped Atrocitus before he could kill William Hand. Atrocitus was then brought back to Yasmalt by Sinestro and Hal Jordan, where Atrocitus decided to get his revenge against what he thought was the greatest Green Lantern, Sinestro. And through a series of rituals which used the rage, hatred, and anger of the entire destroyed sector to fuel the start of the Red Lantern Corps, he proceeded to beat the other 4 inversions to death to combine their blood magics into his new Red Lantern lamp. And this allowed him to become the first Red Lantern in the universe. He then used his blood magics and the knowledge of the prophecies to instill fear into the Guardians and become one of the greatest enemies of the Green Lantern Corps.
Please.
On Blaze's planet, she is literally the most beautiful woman on the planet, with full feathered wings and a face that makes everyone in her galaxy jealous. As she is bathing, her servant informs her of another suitor that has arrived to ask for her hand in marriage, and he is tall. But Blaze tells her servant to inform the suitor that she has no interest in a suitor who knows nothing of her but her face. The servant exclaims that her face is the most beautiful face in this system and 7 others. And she tells him she knows, but her face is not her. Your mother will be displeased, but I cannot argue. Bleez coldly tells him, "Of course you can't. You're my slave." She flies back to the castle where her mother is waiting to beg her to accept this suitor. She wishes to have a grandchild before she dies. But Bleez tells her again that she is not interested in any suitors. The suitor walks forward and blasts the queen with yellow energy, revealing the suitor to be a yellow lantern. He took Bleez to be his personal slave, and he brought her to his ship and tore off her wings. Bleez had never known slavery, nor had she thought much about it. But now, she knew the true cost of freedom, as the ship came under attack and she jumped out into open space. She was ready to die for her freedom, but the yellow lantern put a shield around her, not allowing it, telling her that she wasn't to die until he let her. As he forced her into a kiss, a red ring was coming through the sector, and it felt her rage growing. Bleez of Sector 33, you have great rage in your heart. And as he kissed her, she spewed napalm blood of the Red Lantern into his mouth. He died from that blood, and she was reborn as Bleez of the Red Lantern Corps.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that about her. I know about my boy Dexter.
Dexter, or Dexter as he was originally named, was a poor kitten in an animal shelter, left alone until a kindly woman arrived and saw a box full of abused kittens. But one thing allowed him to stand out from the rest of them. One thing made him a special kitten. One thing made him a good kitten. Dexter had a beautiful blue coat of fur. The woman took him home and she treated him like her greatest friend ever. She gave him treats, balls of yarn to play with, and the love that he finally desired. Dexter was a good kitty. She gave him a home, so he gave her love. But this wouldn't be the story of a Red Lantern without a little heartache. And one night, someone broke into their home in Brooklyn. We don't know who it was, and we don't know what he wanted. Dexter even tried his hardest to save the woman who saved him. But he was just a young kitten. She died that night. Dexter was kicked out of his home and sent to the streets by the police. They didn't know what he had been through. They just saw him as a contaminant to the crime scene. Our poor kitten walked the streets alone, cold and looking for shelter, until some bratty problem children found him. They thought it would be funny to throw a cat off the Brooklyn Bridge, to leave him in a bag so that he could drown. Why can't everyone just leave Dexter alone? Why can't they let Dexter just be a good kitty? But this, as fate would have it, was where he became a Red Lantern. Dexter of Earth, you have great rage in your heart. And a red ring that was scouring the universe for new recruits attached itself to Dexter's tail, allowing him to become the Red Lantern known as Dexter. He took off into the sky with his new powers, but unlike most Red Lanterns who first turned into a Red Lantern, he didn't kill anyone, and he didn't go on a Red Lantern rampage. He didn't do any of that. He went back to his old home, and he got as close as he could, and he curled up. And he just remembered the woman who gave him a home, who gave him love. And he just said to himself as the tears welled up in his eyes, I find one who hurt you. I kill. I good kitty.
Oh, Dexter.
Guy's story begins at his sister's graduation. She had just graduated from the police academy and she was following in the family's footsteps, another gardener on the force. Her brother and her father were there, and her other brother, Guy, was sitting far away from the family. He didn't want to join the happy times because his father was there. You see, Guy and his father were at odds because Guy got himself kicked off of the force. He tried to come over eventually, hoping for the best, but his father just shunned Guy, once again stating that he had no intentions of making up with him. But his brother and his sister were still hopeful, so once his father left, Guy's brother handed him some tickets and said, bring Dad to the game tonight. You two need to make peace, and you need to put your best foot forward. Well, Guy didn't think it would work, but he decided to go ahead and make an effort. So that night he went to his father's house and he invited him to the game. But his dad held a lot of anger towards Guy, and they went right into it with his father stating, every gardener in the police force has been honored. They've held medals. It's in the family to be a police officer, and you just couldn't listen. You had to get yourself kicked off the force. But Guy got defensive right away, stating that the reports were falsified, and how could his dad follow those reports and not listen to his own son? Sadly, his father had been drinking, and he just slumped over into a chair, stating he was a good cop, and he would follow the reports. And as his father passed out, Guy heard the police radio say, 2 officers down, and then he heard it, his brother's name. Well, it was only a few blocks away, and a gardener doesn't leave his family behind. So Guy hops on his motorcycle and he rides straight there, just as his brother's about to be shot in the face, and he jumps over the police car, landing on the criminals. Guy moves quickly, getting his brother into the cop car, and they speed out of there as quickly as they can. Both officers are bleeding out, and he just needs to get them to the hospital. If only he could go faster! And that's when it happens. A green power ring comes over, and it says, "Guy Gardner, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps." And it slaps itself on his finger, and he just says, "No way!" The ring tells him he can do anything that he can imagine, so he imagines himself getting his brother to the hospital, and the ring makes it happen instantly. The next morning, his brother wakes up and he sees Guy floating over him, and he asks, "So you're a Green Lantern now?" And Guy just looks at the ring and he says, "I don't know, but I'm definitely going to be better at this than the chump in the Justice League." And that's how Guy earned his green ring. Now you're probably wondering how he eventually got the red ring. Keep in mind, he has the green one in the stories that we're about to cover. His red ring comes much later in the stories, and that's why initially we weren't going to cover this for a bit. So eventually, 𝓕𝓸𝓵𝓻 comes to lead the Green Lantern Corps. This is shortly after all of the battles and all of the wars have ended. Hal intercepted a transmission from 𝓕𝓸𝓵 stating that he was going to build up his Red Lantern Corps for something. So Hal decides he needs an undercover agent. Well, Guy Gardner has held the red ring before, and with the Blue Lantern's help, they can remove the red ring. So Hal thinks that Guy would make a great undercover agent, and he asks him to go back in as a Red Lantern and fill him in on everything that's going on. He figures with the Red's numbers so low, 𝓕𝓸𝓵 won't turn Guy away, even if he was a Green Lantern. So Guy agrees and he heads to 𝓕𝓲𝓷𝓵, where he finds the Reds right away. And he says, "The Greens are dead to me," and he asks 𝓕𝓸𝓵 for a red ring. Well, 𝓕𝓸𝓵 says, "Do you think of me as a fool?" And he buries Guy into a wall. But Guy is the one Green Lantern who is so full of rage that even 𝓕𝓸𝓵 can't stop him. And he uses every ounce of his green ring's charge to completely obliterate 𝓕𝓸𝓵. He then leans over and he takes 𝓕𝓸𝓵's own ring off of his own hands, and he puts it on. Dexter takes 𝓕𝓸𝓵 and the two of them leave 𝓕𝓲𝓷 as Guy declares, "I am done being a good guy." And that's how he came to lead the Red Lantern.
He's like, "This my group now."
Within the Lantern mythos, there are multiple corps, not just the Green Lanterns. Each is centered around an emotion, and the Red Lanterns are centered around rage.
That's
and
right.
It's that rage that 𝓕𝓸𝓵 intends to use to rebuild the Red Lantern army after the wrath of the First Lantern. But the first thing he needs to do is crush the Green Lantern's method of intel. And then he sends out 10 new rings to 10 new potential Red Lanterns. Over at Oa, the headquarters of the Greens, Hal finds Guy working on his motorcycle in his downtime, and Hal asks him, "Can you go to the Reds for me? You're the only member of the Green Lanterns that has ever been a Red before and returned." If Guy goes, he'll be their man on the ground, reporting back to Oa with what's happening. Once he's had enough, Hal will get him pulled out using St. Walker and the Blue Lanterns to purge the red ring off of him. But Guy asks Hal, "What if I don't want out?" Back with the Red Lanterns on their homeworld of 𝓕𝓲𝓷, 𝓕𝓸𝓵 decides to enact his new plan, and he turns to Rancor, the only human Red Lantern. "We shall dine on your blood, and you shall give us your ability to create constructs." Rancor isn't about to sacrifice himself, though, and the Red Lanterns have their first bloody battle amongst themselves until 𝓕𝓸𝓵 calls it off. With Rancor bloody, 𝓕𝓸𝓵 tells the Corps, "If Rancor isn't willing to sacrifice himself, then so be it, though his selfishness disgusts me." At that moment, Guy arrives for his duty, hovering over the Red Lanterns like the green beacon of willpower that he is. "𝓕𝓸𝓵, I've come to join the Reds. The Green Lanterns have nothing for me." Ha! Fine, here's a map of Oa and all the information on the Greens' defenses and their roster counts. Interesting. Do you think I am foolish, Guy Gardner? You arrive just as I finally get rid of the last of the infection the Green Lanterns have placed in my congregation. And then he bombards Guy Gardner with the blood magic of the Red Lanterns. But Guy Gardner, he's had enough, and he jumps at 𝓕𝓸𝓵, hitting him hard. He's tired of not being good enough. He's tired of being expendable. He's tired of being the last string. Get that only picked him as a backup Green Lantern. Not good enough for prime time. Not good enough. As a cop, he washed out. He never made it. Not good enough. And Hal sent Guy here because he was expendable, disposable, not good enough. Using this rage, Guy Gardner hits 𝓕𝓸𝓵 over and over, blood spraying all around them. And then he stands up and takes off his green ring. And he pulls 𝓕𝓸𝓵's red ring right off of his finger. 𝓕𝓸𝓵 reverts to his former self without a heart as the red ring replaces his user's heart. Dexter, the space kitty, quickly grabs 𝓕𝓸𝓵 and he clears the area. But Guy Gardner, he's now filled with rage! He falls to his knees with blood pouring out of his eyes and his mouth, growling in horror. Seeing the situation that he is in, Blaze mentions that perhaps they should leave him like this. I mean, he just destroyed 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻. Then the Red Lanterns begin to argue about it, and while they're distracted, 𝓨𝓾𝓻 lifts Guy Gardner up using a construct, and he drops him into the Blood Lake. Everyone stops what they're doing, and they turn to the Blood Lake. Guy comes out screaming and gasping for air, while Blaze is fighting it out with Skylex over leadership. But as they finally resolve their fight, Guy turns to them. Why does anyone need to be in control? There are 6 of us. That's more than enough for our democracy to work. Everyone throws in their idea and you all vote on the best one. It's not difficult. Now who's tired of this planet and sleeping on the ground? The Red Lanterns all look at each other, and then they look at Guy, raising their hands. Good, then I have an idea. He takes them into space where they track down the cruiser ship, the 𝓕𝓸𝓵𝓵. This ship is run by a monster named Barge. He's a space pirate and the Greens have always wanted to take him down, but he avoided them. Blaze hears the word pirates and says, "Pirates? So whoever we find we can kill?" Easy bleezy. Thus, the Red Lanterns begin mass murdering everyone on the ship. Napalm blood and red flames of fury burn the ship. While he's tearing them apart, Guy manages to stumble across what they're smuggling. The corpses of a race of crystal people. Their bodies are worth money, so Barge has cut off their arms and legs and is transporting their bodies, just the core of their bodies. Guy storms onto the bridge of the ship, blood streaming from his mouth and his face, his eyes glowing red with rage, and he blasts Barge out of the ship and into space. He then takes a seat in the captain's chair with the vacuum of space sucking out all of the air off the bridge until 𝓨𝓻𝓻 walks in and makes a wall construct. Guy looks up at him. Is it me? Or did that feel great? Meanwhile, off in space, we find out how 𝓨𝓸𝓾 isn't dead. 𝓸𝓸𝓵 managed to lick up some of 𝓨𝓻𝓻's blood and has gained the ability to make constructs, and he made 𝓨𝓸𝓾 a new heart. 𝓨𝓸𝓾 fully intends to come back for his revenge, but first, he'll need to find one of those 10 rings that he sent off into space. Guy and the Red Lanterns take their new home to Yasmalt, where Guy parks it and he starts to learn the Red Lanterns aren't all bad. They have hobbies and interests outside of massive rage. 𝓨𝓸𝓾 has always just kept them on short leashes. So Guy takes off for space and he uses the last of his green ring's power to call Hal. Hal, I want out. The Reds aren't a threat because I killed 𝓨𝓸𝓾 with my bare hands, and I killed a space pirate named Barge. Hal tells him that he'll send St. Walker to purge Guy, just hold on. But later on, Hal calls Guy back to tell him, the Blue Lanterns are gone. Their lantern has been destroyed. A being named Relic is going around sucking all of the light out of all of the cores, and he's already destroyed Oa. For this period of the storyline, the Red Lanterns went off to help the rest of the cores defeat Relic in the event Lights Out. We'll link the video now because we did a whole video on the event Lights Out, and we're gonna go to what happens afterwards. In return for helping the other cores defeat Relic, Guy brokered a deal with Hal. The Red Lanterns are now the new police force for Sector 2814, the sector that Earth is in. So after everything is over and the Reds head back to their ship, now floating in their new sector, they start dumping various drinks down 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻's throat, while Guy is trying to devise a way for the sector to be aware that there's a new sheriff in town, a new boss, and the Greens are gone. While he's debating this, our quiet Red Lantern Ratchet is trying to keep his ring on his finger. It's not time, he says, as the ring tries to leave. He then walks out and turns to the group. I have an idea. One that will definitely let people know who we are. There is a villain known as Field Marshal 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻, and he's a leader of a planet called 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻. On the outer edge of his sector, he subjugated his populace, and he turned everyone into his follower or his slave. Once he's done with his planet, he moved off into space to use his slaves to build a Dyson Sphere, a device that steals all of the energy from the sun itself. He's trying to rob the Earth's sun. So the Red Lanterns decide, this'll make their name. They come up with a plan to have 𝓨𝓻𝓻 use his constructs to take the appearance of Barge, 𝓨𝓸𝓾's friend, and they sneak everyone on board his ship. Once they're all on board and in their disguises, 𝓨𝓸𝓾 treats them to one hell of a party, while 𝓕𝓸𝓼𝓾 stays on the ship trying to get it working properly again. Everything seems to be going fine until 𝓨𝓸𝓾 leads them to a room where Barge is already standing. It turns out, Guy didn't kill him as good as he thought he did. Immediately, they have the entire army of 𝓨𝓸𝓾 on them, trying to kill them with laser fire coming from all sides. 𝓨𝓻𝓻 pops up a construct shield as quickly as he can, and they appear to be winning, until they get blasted with a weird blue light that basically drugs them. Skylex tells everyone not to breathe. This mist must be a chemical attack. Or, go ahead and breathe. It's probably fine. The whole crew lands on the ground softly, and Ratchet goes, No, I won't let you hurt my... but Guy cuts him off. Calm down, Ratchet. You're always so intense. Just chill out. Ride the wave. All 5 of them get put into cuffs and carried off with the blue beams keeping them calm. Standing in front of a firing squad, Ratchet tries his best to apologize. He just wanted one last run. Meanwhile, up in space, 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 is dealing with his own problems as the Dyson Sphere is launching a full-scale blast at him in the ship, with everyone looking up in the sky saying, "Pretty." Ratchet uses everything within his power to break out of the bonds holding him and take all of the bullets into his tentacles as 𝓸𝓸𝓾𝓻 calls out fire. Ratchet then falls to the ground, and he tells his friend to look up as 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 has dodged the blast coming at the ship by overpowering the ship with Red Lantern energy, and he's coming straight at everyone, blasting them to free them from the blue light. Finally, coming to their senses, the entire group jumps in and straight out kills everyone in 𝓸𝓸𝓾𝓻's army, including himself, when Bleez shoves her bone wings through him, murdering him. Once everyone is killed, Ratchet explains that he is a Red because in his society, his people are supposed to be separate and never work together. But he thought this was wrong and that they could work together. So in return for his thoughts, they mutilated him and they locked him away until the ring eventually found him. Being with the Red Lanterns has given him purpose and friends, and he hasn't felt this rage in a long time. The ring was already trying to leave him, and once it did, he would die. But he wanted to do one last good thing: stop the Field Marshal and save his friends. With Ratchet's sacrifice, the Reds now established themselves in Sector 2814, and they are now the police of the sector. But across the galaxy, Atrocitus has found a new Red Ring, and he's getting ready to take his revenge on Guy Gardner and the Red Lantern Civil War.
The Red Alarm.
They now stand on Yasmalt, where the race of individuals that they saved have created statues to honor them and to show them how they feel about this. The Red Lanterns are happy with the life that Guy Gardner is forming for them, and that's a good thing because he's happy with his life with them. But they did just lose one of their friends, Ratchet, as his ring left him because he no longer felt rage, but instead he felt family. So Bleez and Rancor decide that they're going to go track it down and help whoever the new Red Lantern is, while Guy Gardner decides that he's gonna go do something back on Earth. He looks to Skalix and 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻. Yo, you guys wanna come? They look at each other, and then they look back at Guy. Yup. So Guy, Skalix, and 𝓕𝓸𝓾 all head back to Earth, where they arrive in Baltimore, Maryland. Charm City itself, as Guy tells them, the place where he grew up. A port city? This explains a lot about you, Gardner. Where are the spheres? You guys haven't learned to make buildings out of spheres yet? Honestly, Gardner, this whole place looks a little backwards. All right, insult the guy's home? Come on. It wasn't an insult, Gardner. It's, a very nice port village. You know, I was gonna bring you guys for beers, but you lost those. I'll give your ring some coordinates of things that you might find impressive here on Earth, and I'll catch up with you later. Don't get into any trouble, and the rules are simple. If someone from here doesn't hit you first, you aren't allowed to hit them first. And with that, Guy flies off to Norway. He walks up to the cabin in the middle of nowhere and he knocks on the door. A woman opens the door and blasts Guy with the ice, freezing him. Damn, Tora, that was... But Tora, formerly Ice and one of Guy's old Justice League International partners, tells him, "Don't even say it, Gardner." And Guy grins. Ice cold. She storms off and he melts himself out of the ice. He then walks into her place and he tries to convince her to take him back. He's changed. But she doesn't think that's a good idea at all. Meanwhile, Skalix and 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 are traveling Earth looking at what are supposed to be amazing sights. First, they go to Arizona, where 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 calls the Grand Canyon a hole. Then they go to Israel to see the Red Sea, and 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 asks why it's a blue sea. Then they go to the Dome in Paris, and 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 finally thinks that it's starting to look good. Then as they're looking at what they're supposed to go look at next, which is Las Vegas, they find themselves meeting the Shadow Thief. She tells the villainous scum that she's here to eradicate any life forms that come to this planet, and she can smell their putrid odors. But Skalix points out that she's wearing an alien suit and is probably just smelling herself. 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 decides that since this is an Earthling, he'll ask her a question, something that he gets called a lot. He wants to know what a testicle is. And the Shadow Thief hits him! 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 goes flying and Skalix smiles. Aha! You hit first! Which means it's open season on you, alien! What? No, I'm from Earth, you're the alien! No, you're the alien to me, he tells her as he hits her with his red beam. But her suit is made of shadows and it begins to absorb the red light of rage. 𝓕𝓸𝓾𝓻 comes flying back in and he hits her with napalm blood. But back with Gardner, he's trying to convince Tora that he's really changed. He even solves problems without punching now, sometimes. At that moment, Skalix calls him up. Gardner, we need you! We got ourselves into a little trouble. Tora looks at him worried. Here, I'll prove it to you. I'll solve this problem without even punching. And they head off to join the argument. Meanwhile, Rancor and Bleez have followed Ratchet's ring to its new home. and its new user. But when they open the door to the building, they are greeted by a very unsettling sight. 𝓨𝓸𝓲 has the new Red Lantern, and he welcomes 𝓨𝓙 and 𝓵𝓵 to his new home. Guy and 𝓨𝓸 arrive at the fight scene, and they see that the Shadow Thief has both Skrillex and Zillus wrapped up. As he shows up, Guy tries the subtle approach. Ma'am, what's the problem here? I'm sure we can work out with some intelligent discourse. This alien filth has defiled our planet, and I will not allow it. Wait, what were they doing to the planet? We did nothing, Gardner. We were simply touring the site you told us to, and she attacked us. Now hit her! You are from Earth and you side with these aliens? Lady, some of my best friends are aliens. Honestly, you sound a little, it's not racist, but it's some kind of hate speech thing. Gardner! Skrillex whines to him, but then the Shadow Thief cuts him across the cheek. Now you're getting on my last nerve, lady. Guy dodges a few more whips and then he tries to get Skrillex free, but Skrillex explains that this whole thing is shadow-based. Meanwhile, back with 𝓨𝓙, 𝓵𝓵, and 𝓨𝓸𝓷, he's having 𝓥 bombard them with his power. 𝓵𝓵 begs for him to stop, and he retorts by asking her if she would like him to stop, like he asked for her help when Guy Gardner beat him to death and took his ring. They then try to throw everything they have at 𝓨𝓸𝓲, but the new Red Lantern has a special power to catch and throw back energies, quickly defeating both 𝓨𝓙 and 𝓵𝓵. Back with Guy, he has the idea to make his light as bright as possible and block out the shadows, since they can't affect it directly. And it works easily, cutting Skrillex and Zillus out of their shadow holds. Then, they bombard the Shadow Thief with their light, and 𝓨𝓸 freezes her up. Skrillex deactivates the Shadow Thief's suit, and Guy goes off with 𝓨𝓸 to talk about their relationship. He needs her. He's going through a lot. He's in charge of the Red Lanterns now, and he's coping with a lot of rage, and he needs her to help him connect to Earth, to his sanity. And 𝓨𝓸 tells him no. She can't be that for him. Regardless of how much he's changed, she doesn't feel the same. She doesn't want him back. So Guy, Skrillex, and Zillus all go into space, where sadly, Guy is feeling his grip on humanity is slipping away. Overall, it's been a hell of a journey for him. But that's when they get a report that there are Green Lanterns next to the red power battery. Perfect, he thinks, and he heads back to find Hal Jordan and Supergirl with a red ring? The Green Lanterns came across this Kryptonian with a red ring, and they want Guy's help at giving back her sanity. So they take her and they throw her into the red pool. She rises from the red blood with her mind intact, and she explains that she is Kara
Oh
Zor-El,
my girl!
and now
My
she's the Red
waifu.
Lantern Corps. Guy Gardner looks at Hal and her. Oh great, I got Superman's cousin. Meanwhile, back with 𝓵𝓵 and 𝓨𝓙, they have managed to escape 𝓨𝓸𝓲. It's only temporary. They are injured and they will not survive. So 𝓨𝓙 tells 𝓵𝓵 to get the heck out of here. He'll protect her escape. 𝓵𝓵 asks him why he's doing this for her. They're Reds. It's not just for you, he explains. It's for all of us, Guy and the others. Someone has to warn them that the monster is back. She looks into his eyes. I won't forget this, and we will come back for you. I won't live that long. Just go, 𝓵𝓵. She takes off into the sky as 𝓨𝓙 stands up to 𝓨𝓸𝓲, and 𝓨𝓸𝓲 looks at him. Come forward, my son. It is time for your penance.
The red daughter of Krypton. Yeah, bye bye, waifu!
Weeks ago, before Guy Gardner showed up and removed him from power, 𝓨𝓸𝓲 decided to send off hundreds of Red Lantern rings. He felt that it was time for the Red Lanterns to be a feared entity in the universe once again. A Red Lantern ring is drawn to someone with massive hate and anger in their heart. And Supergirl is finally fed up. After the planet Earth misunderstanding her, after killing her own lover to save the planet, after ensuring Krypton dies in a time travel storyline, and after finally understanding and then losing Superboy, she just can't take it anymore. She is most likely more powerful than her cousin, and all anyone ever wants to do is tell her, I understand, let me help. No one understands what she's been through, and it's only been weeks ago that she had an entire planet of her own people to herself. And poor Lobo has arrived at the worst time, and it looks like he can take her punishment. So she begins punching him through walls, and she just punches him around like a rag doll. She's just so angry, and no one will ever understand her. Her rage continues to grow as Lobo is trying to talk her down. But that's it. Supergirl has snapped, folks. But you know what the purpose of the Red Lantern ring is? To find those with immense rage in their heart and bestow the powers of the Red Lanterns onto them. Supergirl is now a Red Lantern. But there's a problem. You see, when the Red Lanterns are first made into Red Lanterns, they're mindless killing machines filled with napalm blood and a desire to see everything die. That is, before they get hit with the blood magic of the Red Lantern's blood pool. Well, Supergirl is on Earth, and there isn't a magical blood pool around here. But there is her one and only friend, Cybon. And Supergirl can't really help but feel like she wants to murder everything now. But don't worry guys, while Supergirl is a monster now, Sion is secretly the Silver Banshee, and the two friends go toe-to-toe, with the Silver Banshee not wanting to hurt Supergirl, but how can you stop a murderous Red Lantern who has gone mindless? Well, it turns out the Silver Banshee just isn't enough to contain Supergirl. But remember what I said at the start? Supergirl possibly has more power than even Superman since she's been rotating the sun for years, and somehow she has the power to keep a small percentage of her sanity. She realizes that she's gonna kill her friend, so she redirects the hatred of the ring, and before anybody else can get hurt, she takes off at light speed going off-world. She goes farther and farther, not even sure where she's going, but now her rage is so far out of control, she just needs to get away from people. If she's near anybody, she doesn't know what she's gonna do. So if you're traveling through space as an evil Red Lantern full of rage, what do you think you'll come across? The Green Lantern Corps. Well, after being surprised by her arrival, they quickly knock her out and they secure her. Luckily, once Hal sees her, he realizes that she's Kryptonian, and since he knows Superman is a hero, he decides that he's gonna try and get her help, and they bring her to the Red Lanterns since Guy is currently running them. Well, once they get there, they set her free so they can figure out what's going on with her, and they realize that that was a bad idea because it takes all of them to throw her into the blood pool. Once she absorbs the blood pool, and she regains her sanity, she explains that her name is Kara Zor-El. Hal and Guy quickly realize that this is part of Superman's family. And how do you explain to the strongest man on Earth that his cousin has somehow gotten involved in the Lanterns' war? So Hal decides to leave Guy Gardner in charge of this and leaves Guy Gardner to take Supergirl back to Earth. Once they get there, Guy explains to Supergirl that the Reds now patrol the Earth sector after a deal he made with Hal a while back. But Guy Gardner decides that Supergirl is just going to be a distraction. So he decides to distract Supergirl so that he can break the news to Superman himself. Except that she kind of has super hearing and super speed, so she catches up pretty quickly. And it's then that she finds out that there's a downside to having all of this power. The red ring is now connected to her heart, and she's gonna be this way forever now. And while at first being a Red Lantern seemed like fun, being this way forever isn't exactly what she was planning. She takes off wanting to be left alone, but Superman tells Guy Gardner, "Don't worry, I got this, I'll talk to her." And she hits him with a boat! Yep, a boat. And then to vent her frustration, she burns a good chunk of the ocean up. With the initial tantrum over, she explains, why didn't anyone tell her about this forever thing before? Why is Guy Gardner keeping that from her? And he tells her, it isn't an easy thing to say, and they figured that Superman could help her. Oh, that's it. She's tired of everyone trying to help her. She never asked for help. Just leave her alone. And with that, it's decided. She's gonna stay with the Red Lanterns, and Superman will have to trust her to help herself. This isn't the last time that Superman's gonna see her as a Red Lantern, though. At this point, she joins the Red Lanterns in their war against Atrocitus and his Red Lanterns. That's a whole different story that she becomes a part of. But during it, she befriends Bleez and learns how to control herself a bit. She also learns that having strength just isn't enough. You also need brains and power. And she learns quite a bit with the Red Lanterns, but then we need to get back to an earlier character in the Supergirl storylines, the World Killers. These are the creations of Krypton that she fought early in the comic book history, and now they're looking for her. Well, eventually, Guy Gardner does the right thing. The Reds are about to go to war with themselves, and Guy Gardner doesn't think anyone is going to walk away from it. So, he kicks Supergirl out of the Red Lanterns, and he tells her that Mogo might be able to cure her. They have a tearful goodbye after everything that he's taught her. Now that she knows how to control her rage, she heads off to try and get this ring removed, but not before stopping by to see her cousin. You see, Superman during this whole time has been taken over by the Doomsday virus and is losing control to his own hatred, anger, and destruction. So who better to talk to him about how to control it than his Red Lantern cousin? After imparting a few words, she heads off, until she gets caught in a net by the World Killer's leader. He jumps right into a fight with her in space. So now we have a Red Lantern Supergirl, potentially the most powerful being in the universe, fighting against the World Killer leader in space. Does this beat Russian space spirit Hulk? Their fight gets super intense and they begin to fall into Earth's orbit, when she blasts the World Killer and kills him? Well, not quite, as she discovers she killed his body. You see, this World Killer can move between its hosts, and goes for the beings that are the most powerful on their planets. So why wouldn't he want to be on the most powerful being in the entire universe right now? Now, normally he wouldn't be able to take her over because she's just that strong. Except that recently, Earth was blasted with a kryptonite nuke and the entire atmosphere is now filled with kryptonite to weaken Super Doomsday, which is what forced him to go into space to begin with. So Supergirl is slowly falling into a kryptonite-filled Earth with a being trying to take over her body. and she just can't fight against him. The kryptonite in the air is getting too strong. No one wants to be around her, and removing this ring will kill her. That's it. She'll kill herself and kill the World Killer at the same time. It's the only thing that she can do to become worth something. She musters up just enough strength to hold the World Killer back, and she orders her ring to hyperjump her to the sun. She wants to remove the ring in the sun, killing herself and burning the World Killer up, since the heat will kill his form if it's not in a host. But even though she killed herself, it didn't work. The World Killer survived, and now he's gonna take over Superman's body. I mean, he's hosting Doomsday right now. That should be some good power right there. But wait, what? Supergirl survived removing the red ring, and she's back to normal at full power. And she uppercuts the World Killer and just...
I love Red Lantern and Supergirl.
How much power does she have? No one has ever removed a red ring. That's just impossible. And even she's thinking about that. But before we can explore what kind of power she actually has, she needs to get back to Earth.
Civil War Part 1. No, we're close to it.
When we last left off, Bleez had discovered 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 was working towards his revenge against Guy Gardner, and Guy was losing his grip on humanity. But as he returned to the Red Power Battery, he learned that there was a new Red Lantern in their core, the cousin of Superman, Kara Zor-El. After trying to get her to not drink beer and then tricking her into coming back to Earth, he talked it over with Superman, and while Superman wasn't too happy about the whole her being a Red Lantern thing, he did leave her to her own devices, and her decision was to return and join the Red Lantern Corps. If you want to know more about her journey directly, we have an older video called 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 that explains where that story
I gotta make sure I watch that.
But Bleez managed to get away from 𝓨𝓸𝓾, and she crash lands onto the Red Lantern planet of Yasmalt, and she manages to get out the words, 𝓨𝓸𝓾. They bring her to the infirmary, and she explains that she went there with Rancor to get Ratchet's ring. And they found 𝓨𝓸𝓾, and he beat them both near death. She gets out of bed and begins looking for her clothes. She plans to go back for Rancor, with or without Guy. So Guy calls in his new Red, Supergirl, so that she can hold Bleez back while he figures out what's going on and what 𝓨𝓸𝓾's plans really are. Bleez tries to push her way past Kara, but that's not going to happen. Meanwhile, in a foreign world, a new Red rises, the Judge. She deems the people of her planet guilty, and she begins to slaughter them all. Seeing a huge power fluctuation coming off of a planet, Guy grabs every Red, even the recovering Bleez, and they head down to the planet to find the entire city burning. The question comes up, could one Red have possibly done this on their own? They are interrupted by some very scared locals who inform Guy that they don't need any more of these Red Lanterns. First they had the Judge, and then the one with the cat, and Guy stops him right there. He knows what this means. 𝓨𝓸𝓾 beat him to his planet with his little cat, 𝓨𝓸𝓫. Down below, 𝓨𝓸𝓾 stands with 𝓨𝓸𝓫, looking at a very powerful new Red Lantern. The Judge disappears from his sight, but 𝓨𝓸𝓾 has this on lockdown, and he leads his master to the new, very powerful Red Lantern. Meanwhile, Supergirl and Bleez are flying through the city looking for the same Red Lantern. But they take damage from the locals, who are scared and attacking anything in red, so Bleez has to land and recover. Her wounds are nowhere near healed enough to actually get into real combat, which leaves Supergirl to go on the search by herself using her X-ray vision. She eventually tracks down the Judge as the Judge is trying to judge the planet guilty, and Supergirl hits her with a blast from her ring, telling her that's enough. The Judge asks what she is, and Kara tells her, a Red Lantern. Confused by what a Red Lantern is, the Judge throws Kara back. Furious, Kara gets back up and she tries to control her anger, but the Judge charges at her. Everyone on this planet must pay for their crimes today, including you! She taps into Kara's mind and she sees everything that is filling her with rage. The destruction of Krypton, losing its revival, hell betraying her in her battle with Superman. And then she deems Supergirl innocent. Flawed and dangerous, but young and innocent. So the Judge leaves Kara, telling her that she understands her now. But since they aren't fighting anymore, Kara flies over to her and explains that there is blood on Yasmalt that can help clear her mind. And they brought it on their ship, which they brought from the planet. If the Judge will wait here, she'll bring it to her. So Kara flies off to get the blood, and 𝓨𝓸𝓾 sees her, and he tells his ring to track her movements, while he walks over to have a talk with this new Red Lantern. The Judge grabs him and looks at his life. 𝓨𝓸𝓫 jumps in to save his master, but is thrown aside by the power of this new Red. 𝓨𝓸𝓫 then puts on Red Lantern armor and gets ready to fight, but 𝓨𝓸𝓾 tells him, do not fight the Judge. Let the Judge see his past. The Judge stops. I cannot judge you. You have done terrible things, but you think what you have done is right. They are correct in your mind. I've never encountered someone so utterly convinced that what they are doing is correct. Meanwhile, Kara goes into space and grabs the vat of red blood and tears it apart over the city. The red blood of 𝓕𝓲𝓵𝓵 begins to rain down on everything, from the judge, the city, all the way to 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻, and she drops to the ground with her mind clearing. This would be a good solution, except that it empowers 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻. He begins to command the blood and swirl it around, using it to his advantage. Kara blasts it with her heat vision, causing a massive explosion of blood and fire, turning the bloodstorm into a burning bloodstorm. Blaze slaps Kara. Stop and think! But Guy has an idea. It's never been done before, but they have no other option. He has all of the Red Lanterns join hands, and they use their rings with the blood magic, and they command the blood to retreat into the sky and back into space. While Skylex says that they should leave while they can, Guy explains that he's done playing hide and seek. He rockets down to 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 as he's trying to get the new red, and now the judge's mind is clear. Guy commands the Reds to drop 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 in the cat, but 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 utters one word that causes everyone to pause. Rancor. He is now being handled by the vicious new Red that 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 recruited earlier, and he swears that if Guy lets him leave with the judge, he'll return Rancor to them, by his blood oath. But the judge tells him no. She wants to sit here and pass judgment on herself for her actions, whether or not this harms the one called Rancor. Guy looks glaringly at 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻. This is it then? You're declaring war on us? Not yet, Gardner. When I declare war, you'll know. Oh, the things I have planned for you, Gardner. You and anyone that stands with you. Worse than you have tried, buddy. And I'm still here, you bastard! I'm still here! With that, 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 leaves the planet with Dexter. But as Gardner and his Reds leave the planet, he tells his team, it's time to get Rancor back. Guy's Reds, Skylex, Blaze, Zillus, and Supergirl have found where 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 is keeping Rancor, and they intend to get their man back. And the judges decided to go along to observe their action. They start their fight by blasting the surface of the planet with the lasers from their ship, and then they fly down to the cabin where Blaze left Rancor behind to suffer in her escape. Guy flies ahead of everyone and he finds Rancor chained up and feral. Meanwhile, 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 himself has gone back to 𝓕𝓲𝓵𝓵, the home planet of the Reds, to find the statues of his own enemies. He tells his new band of Reds to tear down the statues while melting the face off of Guy's. But he tells them to leave Ratchet's. Ratchet deserved more than this. Guy and his team look in horror at the state of Rancor, and then Blaze frees him and he throws them all back. Rancor has been reverted to his mindless state, the state in which all Reds begin in when they are first born. Supergirl tackles him to the ground before he throws his constructs at her, smashing her head. And then Guy flies in, but Rancor lashes out at him with a scream. Blaze flies overhead and she tries to talk Rancor down, to ask him to find himself. And he looks up and laughs. So she grabs him and allows Zillus Zox to blast the two of them into the ground with everything that he has, stopping both Blaze and Rancor. They then take Rancor back to the ship and put Blaze into the medibay before returning to 𝓕𝓲𝓵𝓵, where they find the end result of 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻's work. He destroyed the red power battery and poisoned the blood in the lake that they would have used to clear Rancor's mind. 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 has now declared war. Guy turns to Kara, Supergirl, and tells her, we need to talk. He tells her that she needs to find her own way. She needs to find a way to cope with her rage and find a way to remove that ring. She is destined for so much more than the life of a Red Lantern. Furious, she turns to him. You're kicking me out? I don't want to drag you down with us, Kara. I don't think we'll be able to walk away from this one. Go find Hal Jordan. He'll help you remove that ring, and you can live your life. She looks at Guy sad. Who says I want to? Oh, kid, he says, giving her a big hug. Don't call me that. The next day, Guy sees his old friend John Stewart, where he explains the full story.
Hey, it's my brother.
Sent him into spying the Reds, and he killed 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻 and took his ring. But that damn cat Dexter found a way to revive 𝓨𝓸𝓾𝓻. Now, he's declaring war on Guy and tearing apart everything that Guy has managed to build. He's tearing apart my people, John. At that moment, Blaze is desperately trying to find a way to turn Rancor back to normal. With the blood lake poisoned, there's no way to clear the madness of a Red. But back with John and Guy, John turns to him. Why'd you do it? I never understood that, Guy. The Reds are not heroes, they are monsters. Been thinking about that a lot lately.
Not all of them.
And I realized I wanted revenge of myself. Back on 𝓕𝓲𝓵𝓵, Blaze cuts her own arm and she begins trying to feed Rancor. She's hoping her blood will clear his mind. She needs him back. And Rancor sends out his constructs to grab her just as Zillus sees what's going on. He runs over to save her and he calls up Skylex for help. but �սկалix left Yasmalt to check on a signal back at his home world. That's when he discovers a new Red Lantern blood pool built on his former homeworld, and 𝓨𝓸𝓾 standing there with a full batch of new Reds. 𝓨𝓸𝓾 grabs �սկалix and he demands that 𝓥𝓸𝓾 kill him. But �սկалix asks him, "Did you refill my revenge? Did you come to my world to kill those that made me suffer?" "I did. I knew it! I came to join you for helping me. Please, 𝓨𝓸𝓾!" So 𝓨𝓸𝓾 allows �սկалix to see his new plan, as he launches hundreds and hundreds of new red rings into the sky. 𝓨𝓸𝓾 then moves his new Reds and the new rings to the one place that he can get his revenge on Guy Gardner, Earth. They begin destroying the cities all over the planet Earth to get everyone's attention, and then, with the people of Earth filled with rage that someone would attack them and cause an alien invasion, they spew red rings all over the planet. Individuals all over become the new Red Lanterns, and the planet fills with an entire army of rage-filled monsters. Getting reports that Earth is now turning into a haven of rage, Guy comes back trying to convince himself that he can do this. He can save Earth, while �սկалix goes down to Earth to find the Shadow Thief. He may just love her after their last encounter. When Supergirl left, she did find a way to clear her red ring, and if you want to know more about that story, then make sure you check out our Red Daughter on Krypton storyline. We've already got a video as to what she did. But she runs up to Guy and offers her help in this situation. But while this is going on back on Earth, Guy sent his ship to 𝓨𝓸𝓾's new Blood Lake, where Zillus blows up the Blood Lake. The two remaining Reds on the surface try to figure out what they're going to do, and that's when Rancor stands up. I was getting sick of this crazy act. He then radios down to the surface. "I'll deactivate the ship's defenses so you can take the ship." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Bleez is riding on a ship from the aliens that they met way back with Ratchet, the ones that have a calming technology. And to return the favor for saving them, they bombard the entire planet with this calming beam. Every Red on the surface calms down, and they stare up at the pretty blue lights. Which may have worked if 𝓨𝓸𝓾 didn't tear the ship apart and take Bleez hostage. Back with Zillus and Rancor, he walks onto the bridge and Zillus turns in shock. "You're back? You turned on us?" "Not exactly." And he punches Zillus's eye out of his socket. Back with Bleez, 𝓨𝓸𝓾 is preparing to kill her when Guy and Supergirl come to her rescue, and 𝓨𝓸𝓾 vanishes before they can all get into a fight. Back with Rancor, he's standing still after he just turned on the self-destruct mechanism, and he says to himself, "Not this again. We've been over this. You can't fight me." And he begins to vomit up a giant worm that he then rips in half, and as its red ring flies off, he grabs it. This will come in handy. He turns and apologizes to Zillus, explaining that it was the worm, and when the worm hurt Zillus, he got so angry that he was finally able to vomit up the worm controlling him. Zillus struggles to get out the words. "Forget this place. Go help Gardner. He'll need you." Rancor apologizes again, and he leaves Zillus there. Zillus struggles to pull himself to the ship's controls. If he's going to die, he's gonna do it in style. And he flies the ship directly into 𝓨𝓸𝓾's base. Back on Earth, 𝓨𝓸𝓾 gathers up his new Reds and he forms his new army, prepared to finish this with Guy Gardner. �սկалix arrives back at the new Blood Lake and he sees Rancor alive and well. And then he calls up Guy. "My mission failed, Gardner. The new Blood Lake is gone, and I can't turn Shadow Thief back to normal. I wasn't able to stop 𝓨𝓸𝓾 from the inside, but I did find Rancor." Guy tells him it's fine. They tried. Bleez and him are going to go back to Yasmalt to end this, and 𝓨𝓸𝓾 is taking a whole slew of new Reds with him. But he tells �սկалix and Rancor not to go there. It's been nice working with all of them. Gardner out. As Gardner goes back to Yasmalt, John tries to call him to ask what's happening on Earth. And Guy tells him it's fine. He fixed Earth. Who knew it? Guy Gardner can actually do his job. Now listen, John. Word of this will get back to Hal and he's gonna blame himself for this. Dude's not happy unless he's feeling guilty for something. Tell him I became a Red because he asked, but I stayed one because I wanted to. None of this is on him. Guy, just tell me where you are. Gotta go, John. Be well. At that moment, 𝓨𝓸𝓾 arrives, demanding Gardner. He sends in all of his new Reds to find him, but that's when �սկалix, Rancor, and the Shadow Thief all arrive and begin fighting it out with 𝓨𝓸𝓾's army. Everyone is getting thrown all over, and Reds are dropping like flies. Even 𝓥𝓸𝓪 is finally getting smashed, hissing, "No fair!" No matter what though, Gardner's team cannot fight against the amount of Reds that 𝓨𝓸𝓾 brought to the fight, and that's when the judge finally joins the battle. But she doesn't fight. She finally judges, and she's decided that none of these Reds deserve clemency. And she blows herself up, dropping everyone as Guy calls to Rancor to put a shield around them. With the majority of enemy Reds dropped, Rancor and Bleeze take the fight to the remaining Reds, while 𝓕𝓸𝓲 finally jumps on Guy Gardner, bringing the fight directly to him. And Guy blasts him off! How many innocents did you hurt? Did you kill because you felt bad about yourself, 𝓕𝓸𝓲? Wah wah! Guy Gardner took my ring. I didn't steal it. You couldn't keep it. But I'll prove it to you. And Guy Gardner takes off his red ring. He takes off the ring that he stole from 𝓕𝓸𝓲. He hits the ground as a red ring replaces your heart, and 𝓕𝓸𝓲 sees his victory. He exclaims, "Yes, yes!" as the ring begins to go back to him. But then, it stops, and it declares, "Guy Gardner of Earth, you have great rage in your heart." But it's not the only ring. All of the rings in the area come to Guy Gardner. His hands fill up with red rings.
Snap.
And he looks at 𝓕𝓸𝓲, and he takes his new ring off his finger. 𝓕𝓸𝓲 hits the ground panicking as his heart has now been removed. Yes, it's happening again. How many times do I have to do this to you before you just stop, 𝓕𝓸𝓲? But enough is enough. Guy Gardner then dumps the rings into a new power battery and a new blood lake. Rancor and Bleeze fly over to him. That was beautiful, mate, but how'd you do it? Magic, I guess. The Reds are yours now. Do what you will with them. I'm going back to Earth to protect that while you guys guard the rest of Sector 2814. With that, Guy Gardner returns home to help clean up the mess that the army of Reds created on Earth. But he keeps his ring close to his chest, just in case he's needed. And he will be soon, along with everyone else, when the new gods arrive.
And there you guys
There you
have it.
go.
A blast from the past right here at Comicstorian. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Ooh, that's a good history on the Red Lantern Corps. My fellow brothers and sisters. I ain't gonna lie, I love the Red Lantern Corps. I guess the reason why is that, like, each corps has its different emotions. And you can tap in and if you believe in all the things like, what was it? Like, if you believe in things like emotions, the zodiac signs, and the ancient knowledge, you know where I'm coming from. Because me, I'm a Pisces and I'm balanced. I'm both between, like how it is good and evil, bad and good, peace and non-peace. I'm about it all. Because then my birthstone color is sapphire. It's blue. But then my birthday is on St. Patrick's Day. And I feel like I am each Lantern Corps. I am each Lantern Corps. But one pushes over another. Like, I feel like, well, not all the colors. I am purple. I forget what purple is. Not love. Pink is love. Pink is love. I am about love. To show love. I am a blue. I am about hope. I am yeller. I say yeller. Yellow. I do have fears. I'm not orange. Orange is greed. I'm not that. I'm not a Black Lantern. A Black Lantern is dark and death. I am a green. Oh no, blue is hope, compassion. Yeah. Green is will. Do I have the will to overcome things? I do. White is heaven. I forget what white is. And then there's red. And I feel like I'm each of them, but the one that goes above all of them is red, which I have rage inside of me. I choose not to bring that out of me. Like, I have rage. I let my hope, my will, and my happiness, and my love for things to rank over my rage. But I have that rage in there. tap into that rage. I think everyone has your demons. You have your demons. You have your rage. You have it all inside of you, and you don't let it come out. Some people let it. Some people let that stuff come out. Me, I know how to control mine. That's why I feel like I am more of a Red Lantern. That I can tap into my rage and use it. Where like some people tap into their rage and they just let that shit go loose. And that's why I say that's why I feel like I am one of the greatest. That's why I feel like I'm one of the greatest RLC leaders, Red Lantern Corps leaders, because it's just like Guy Gardner. He knows how to control it. Where Atrocitus just throws that shit out everywhere and just start attacking people. And plus, I want this to motivate people too. That's another thing. That's why I say you gotta always control each feelings of yourself, because you have emotions and you have to be able to control each of them. Yeah, you have the moments, but you gotta know how to control it. There's a time to use them. There's a time to use them emotions, each emotion for different things, and then there's a time where you have to shut it off and you can't use it at all. And I feel like that. Like you can't say you don't have anger. You have each motion you have. You can't say you don't have it. It's impossible, because that's where we all created to be. We all created with emotions, and we have each of the emotions. It's just some people choose to have. Some people, I'm not hating on them or nothing. Some people choose to have, but it's not really hating. It's some people's emotions go higher than their other emotions. Like some people you'll find that's like me, I'm more rage, but I have the other feelings too. That outcomes all my other ones. And you have people that's like hopeful, and that outcomes everything. And then you got people that's sad, that outcomes things like that basically. But I'm not trying to get into the whole thing and stuff. But yeah, I wanna thank y'all for doing this watch along with me of Comicstorian, showing y'all the Red Lantern Corps, so y'all can know the bases, and they're not just, because people think that the Red Lantern Corps are bad. Yeah, but if you really sit down like how they showed you, not all the Red Lantern Corps are bad. Some of them basically just tapped in from sad moments to bad moments to things like that, what made them get angry and stuff. But yeah, that's your boy, the RLC leader, JJ Stewart, and I'll be seeing y'all. Make sure y'all zap that like button and zap that subscribe button for me, so you could join the Red Lantern Corps. Peace.